Women's rights researcher and writer Jen Thorpe is joining me in studio. Now we are going to be unpacking some of the results we found in Women 24's annual Female Nation survey. Hello.
Hello.
Thank you for joining me. Now before we get started, can you just tell me what kind of work you do in the way of women's rights before we get right into those numbers?
Okay. I wear quite a few hats in terms of women's rights. I'm a writer myself, and I like to write around issues of women's sex and sexuality and sexual rights in particular. And I also work as a researcher at Parliament at the moment for one of the committees dealing with women's rights. So I have a very keen interest in making sure that there's both a public awareness of these issues and also a political awareness of the need to keep them going.
All right, now I want to jump right into this survey. So Female Nation survey found that 1 in 5 women don't trust the police at all.
Yeah.
Is this a shocking statistic to you?
Not at all. I'm actually surprised it's not higher. Having had a number of opportunities to interact with the police myself, I think at times firstly, whenever you go into a police station, a very daunting experience. It's not. It doesn't look nice in police stations. It's not a welcoming place. And then just generally, my experience with police has been bad overall. When they do come to your house, if you've had a robbery, they're not effective. They are sometimes quite aggressive. So I'm actually surprised that it's not more women don't trust the police. It's really sad though, because if you are a victim of any crime, especially a bodily crime or a contact crime, you need someone who's going to be supportive and that you do feel you can trust and who will make sure that things go forward. So. Yeah, very sad.
Do you think this is a uniquely South African problem, or do you think women worldwide maybe don't trust police for some reason?
I think the police also have the bad end of the stick, because they're the beginning part of any criminal justice process. So if you report a crime and you're wanting something to happen, you want it to go to court, or you want someone to get put away for the crime that they've committed, police work is the first port of call. So if they do things well, you can get there, but if they do things badly, you can't. But sometimes, even when they do things well, you don't get the justice that you feel. So some of our mistrust for the police actually comes from a general situation where the criminal justice system in its entirety isn't working properly. Only other place I've ever lived is London, and I never had any interactions with police. But I imagine that it is particularly strong feeling here in South Africa. We also have seen some very high-profile cases lately where the police have duffed things up royally, and if they had done things differently, things could have been different. So I think there probably is a strong feeling here, maybe, and a less strong feeling elsewhere, though I'm not sure.
Now, crime is a big problem in SA. We spoke about it a little bit earlier. Do you think that that's the reason why we don't trust the police?
I think, some crimes that are obviously particularly important for women are very difficult for the police to have an impact on. So if you've got violence in the home, what would you want your police solution to look like? Would you want a police officer, on standby at home? That's not really realistic. A lot of the violence that affects women in South Africa comes from social norms and comes from social acceptance of violence. Definitely better policing would make a massive difference, because then there would be some likelihood that people would get convicted. I think one of the other scary statistics, if you look at reported sexual offences compared to the amount that go to court, it's about 4% of reported sexual offences actually get a conviction.
Why?
Many go to court because of bad policing. Obviously, a number of women withdraw from the trial. The trial process is extremely traumatic. And sometimes if you're healing from an incident of violence against you, you have to prioritise yourself first. And court justice is not necessarily going to make everything better. So there definitely are withdrawals, but there's definitely withdrawals for bad policing, for bad prosecutorial work, for just a general lack of faith in women's testimony, even though that's not allowed anymore, a poor understanding, things like translation, because you're supposed to be able to give testimony in your own language. We have a shortage of sign language interpreters, we have a shortage of all sorts of things, so budgets again a massive problem. And high levels of crime in South Africa, they don't stem from a lack of police work. They stem from massive socio-economic injustice. People in South Africa are not equal, and I don't see an end to crime unless we start to work on that as well, like making sure that there are more jobs, there are more options for people don't feel helpless, people are able to go to school and get the sort of supportive life environment that someone like that I've had, and I don't think that there's going to be a solution unless we start to target it from all the necessary angles.